Wow. The sounds of Hail to the Chief. Can you guess what our topic is going to be today? Greetings, Disney adults, Disney fans of all ages. Welcome. When I embarked a few weeks ago and did my video on Liberty Square, I didn't really know at the time that it was going to lead to sort of a series, but here we are. I followed it with the Haunted Mansion, and now here we are doing the Hall of Presidents. So that is the topic of our video today. And I'm wearing my shirt.
They salute to all nations, but mostly America.
Technically, this shirt goes along with Hollywood Studios and Muppet Vision 3D, but I wear it today as kind of a shout out to a pop-up show that you could see right beside Hall of Presidents. Sort of to honor that show, that's why I'm wearing this today. But we want to talk about the Hall of Presidents today, and indeed, where did the Hall of Presidents come from? It is a show that features all animatronic actors or characters in the form of the presidents of the United States. It also features multimedia, features video, film, music, and it is a show that is, I'm not going to say it's divisive or controversial, but I will say that this is the kind of show that you either enjoy or you don't. It is a very serious show. Don't go in there expecting a laugh-a-minute riot. It's a show that's going to make you think, and it's going to make you learn. The question we've got to ask, of course, what would Walt think? What would Walt think of the Hall of Presidents? Now, like the Haunted Mansion, Walt Disney never got to enjoy the Hall of Presidents. He passed away, again, before the Magic Kingdom opened, so certainly before the Hall of Presidents opened. What would he think of the show, though? I want to explore that, and I want to ask that question, and I want to try to give you an answer to it. But before we do, as we always do, we have to go back in time.
Since I was a small boy in Illinois, I've had a great personal admiration for Abraham Lincoln. So when we decided to recreate some of the great moments in Mr. Lincoln's life for the World's Fair, we directed all our energies to that task. We wanted to bring to the people of today the inspiring words of the man who held this nation together during its moment of greatest crisis, the Civil War. Now, to recreate a truly lifelike image of Lincoln, we use our new medium of audio animatronics. To start with, we were fortunate in being able to secure this life mask of the 16th president. During our exhaustive research into Lincoln's life, we studied his mannerisms, his gestures, and even his voice characteristics to create a faithful likeness of this honored man. The final result is so lifelike that you might find it hard to believe.
Long before Disneyland opened, Walt wanted to create a way to reproduce the mechanical motions of a man, or for that matter, any living being. While on a trip to New Orleans one time, Walt found a mechanical bird that would sing, and its beak and its wings and its head would move as he sang. Walt bought this and brought it back to his Imagineers and said, let's see how this works so we can reproduce it. Not long after that, they brought in entertainer Buddy Ebsen, and they asked him to dance a soft shoe for them. And what they did is they set up a background with grid lines on it, and they asked Buddy Ebsen to dance his soft shoe in front of it. The Imagineers then studied the video to try to reproduce Buddy Ebsen's movements, and they eventually created a 1/8 sized figure of Buddy Ebsen doing these dancing motions. It was very cool, and it was the beginnings of what would become audio animatronics. In 1958, at Disneyland, there was an expansion for the park that was shared in souvenir maps that showed a little street off of Main Street called Liberty Street. Included on that street, by the way, would have been an attraction called the Hall of Presidents. Walt's vision was sort of a recreation of the American Revolution, and then at its conclusion, have all the American presidents up on stage. Initially, they were to be wax figures, or he thought maybe we could do some sort of animated statue figures, but nothing really worked to Walt's satisfaction. Imagineers continued to work to perfect audio animatronics, and they discovered that they could do something animating like birds and flowers. The Enchanted Tiki Room, the first use of audio animatronics in a Disney park. Walt continued to pursue his Hall of Presidents idea, and anyone who has studied Walt Disney at all knows that his favorite president was Abraham Lincoln. So Walt had his Imagineers begin work on building an Abraham Lincoln audio animatronic. Developer Robert Moses, who was in charge of putting together exhibits for the World's Fair, had seen the success of Disneyland, so he scheduled a trip to Disneyland and a tour of the Walt Disney Studios. And during that tour, he met with Walt Disney and saw everything the Disney Studios had, and overall, he was not really impressed. So then Walt said, "Would you like to shake the hand of Abraham Lincoln?" So Walt took him back to a secret part of WED Studios where Robert Moses met and shook hands with Abraham Lincoln. Robert Moses was so impressed by this, he immediately said, "We've got to have that for the World's Fair." At first, Walt was like, "No, it's not ready." But in the end, Robert Moses persuaded Walt to do an attraction with Abraham Lincoln. And eventually, the state of Illinois would sponsor, and it would become known as Great Moments with Mr. Lincoln. The show, though, was very successful at the New York World's Fair in 1964 and 1965, so much so that Imagineers created a duplicate Abraham Lincoln. So while the show was still going on at the New York World's Fair, they are able to create another show, Great Moments with Mr. Lincoln, at Disneyland. Audio animatronics had finally given him some realistic people. Then, of course, we know what happened in 1966. Walt Disney passed away. Well, when the Disney company decided to move forward with the Magic Kingdom at Disney World, one of the things that they wanted to add was a Hall of Presidents at Liberty Square. And in my Liberty Square video, I discussed all of this, so we're not going to go back into it. But this was a perfect opportunity to take advantage and to fulfill Walt's original idea. The Hall of Presidents is housed in a red brick colonial style hall reminiscent of what you would have found in Boston or Philadelphia. Above the door is the year 1787, the year that the United States Constitution was ratified. And as you enter the building, the first thing you'll notice is the seal of the United States of America. Now, to get permission to use that seal of the United States literally required an act of Congress. Disney sought that and got approval, and so now it is on display. In addition, in the lobby are a number of portraits of the presidents, also various artifacts and various pieces related to the presidency. For its 1971 opening, all of the presidents in the Hall of Presidents were sculpted by Imagineer and sculptor and ultimate Disney legend Blaine Gibson. He continued to sculpt every president up until George Bush. With the election of Barack Obama in 2008, Gibson's protege, Valerie Edwards, took over the task of sculpting with oversight from Blaine Gibson. and she has done all of the presidents since then. For the most part, the show was unchanged from 1971 up until about 1993, I believe, other than the addition of new presidents as they were elected into office. Now, in 1993, the show underwent some significant changes. The film was reworked to kind of place more emphasis on the issue of slavery. A notable change that people would have noticed is that beginning in 1983, the current president speaks as well as Abraham Lincoln. At the time, Bill Clinton. We also have recording of the current president reciting the oath of office. So President Bill Clinton, and then following him, George W. Bush, Barack Obama, Donald Trump, all of those presidents during their terms of office would say a few words, and you would hear them reciting the oath of office. Now, we do have video of Joe Biden reciting the oath of office, but he does not contribute any commentary to the show. In addition, George Washington was added as a speaker. Something else to note is the clothing that each president wears. Every president wears clothes that is appropriate to their time that they were in office. Even Franklin Roosevelt has braces on his legs. So that is the Hall of Presidents. A very serious show. Like I said earlier, it's not a laugh riot. It's not a thrill-a-minute ride. It is a show. Young children probably won't really enjoy it. And here's what I would say. If you're going to go visit the Hall of Presidents, please, please give it the respect and the integrity that it requires. It is a 25-minute show. So if you are going to go see the Hall of Presidents, realize you're going to be sitting there for 25 minutes. Do not come into the Hall of Presidents, sit down, and then get up and leave 10 minutes after the show starts because you think it's boring. It's a longer show with historical background. If you don't like that sort of thing, don't go see it. And if you're one of those folks who likes to go to the Hall of Presidents and says, I'm going to sneak a quick nap in the air conditioning so I can get out of the Florida sun for a little while, I won't judge you. But just sit in the back. Okay? Like I said, give this show the respect and the dignity that it requires. So, that leaves our question. What would Walt think? Well, this was Walt's idea. I think Walt would be absolutely blown away by the show. I think he would love it. I think he would look at it and say, this is exactly the kind of thing I was looking for. I know I read a blogger recently who said that they don't like that they have the current president's comments. Personally, I think that's a good addition, and I think Walt would be pleased with that. I think Walt would be thrilled to know that most of the presidents in the last several years have chosen to record some comments for the Hall of Presidents. I think that's a good thing. Personally, some people would disagree with me. And there is a story that goes back years and years when this was first in the planning stages. And one of Walt's Imagineers said, do you really want to have every president up there? Walt said yes. And we need to treat every president equally. Walt had his political affiliation, but he said every president must be treated with dignity and respect. All of them. We don't slight any of them just because they disagree with us. And this was Walt's philosophy. This is what he wanted to see with the Hall of Presidents. And I personally think we do see that with the Hall of Presidents. I like the Hall of Presidents. Is it a must-do for me for every visit to the park? No. No, I can honestly say I probably have not visited Hall of Presidents in my last few trips there. But I do enjoy the show. I like watching the show, and it does stir that patriotism within me. But tell me what you think. Is Hall of Presidents somewhere at the top of your list? Are you one of those who says, no, I'm not going to go see the Hall of Presidents? Let me know. Do me a favor. Can you please subscribe to my channel, give me a like for this video. Leave me a comment. I would love to know a question you have. Ask me, Todd, what do you think Walt would think of this? And I'll be happy to try to answer it in a later episode. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you in the Disney parks very soon.